Well, good evening. Basically, I am back. I think this is my fourth evening doing this. Um, so, uh, I have a fish that I've been working on. If you'll remember from the last week when I was here, uh, I started out, this tail was straight across. And what I did is I actually sanded this down, and I did take a video of myself doing that. And I'll be sharing that in my series that I'm making for making decoys as well. But I used a sanding belt to actually. Hey, Brandon, how you doing, Jersey? I actually I made a or I took my sanding belt and I actually took that down because what I had found is if I take my knife and I actually use that to carve in here, once it gets down here, the grain of this will actually cause it to chunk out. So it's not something that I want happening. So I just find that using the sanding belt tends to give me a better end product. So I get a nice, I get this nice looking tail on it, and there's no damage that's done down here in that lower part of the tail. I did also, as I was outside, if you look, and I hadn't done this before, and I mentioned this when I was doing it, but I actually put almost a spooned tail, something that you might see on a fish by a gentleman by the name of Hans Johner, who Hans was in the early 1900s making decoys down in Mount Clemens, Michigan. But he and his kin were all very adept at making these. And then the other thing that I did while I was outside, because we actually had some nice weather, which I appreciate the nice weather, but the spearing season is pretty much done for me. The ice is all moving out at this point, so it's kind of it's not a safe fishing environment at the moment for that, and it probably won't go back. So this season's probably over. But on the bright side, I did have a lot of good times going out. Was able to go out with a lot of family and friends, and just enjoy being outdoors with them. The other thing that I did do um, is I took my drill press and I recorded this as well, and I'll be including it in my series that I'm making. But I did drill these out to depth. So they're the ones in the back are drilled about this far. The ones in the front drilled up this far for the chamber. Um, and I'm going to be using this chisel later to actually dig that out. Um, when I first started doing this, I was actually using um, I was using just a utility knife to cut those out. And to me, it just seems like a very dangerous route to take with it. So I'm doing the, the whole idea of taking it and um, I'm removing the little pieces that are left in that slot. I'm removing those using a chisel, but I'm not involved with using the actual the utility blades. That seems kind of dangerous to me. So working on this, I'm gonna be sanding this down some today, and I'm going to be working at doing my uh, doing my lead cavities and also just kind of touching the thing up. I want to get it nice so that I can actually put some slots in for my my fins. And I'm thinking probably next week I may go over cutting the fins and talk a little bit about that and some of the materials that you'll be able to use for the fins if this is something that you wanted to do. So I'm going to start, I guess, with removing removing some of that wood in here. And this is one that I did for the show last year. It was a tribute to Oscar Peterson, more of my style of fish, but his style of paint. And I want to say I was kind of inspired by a gentleman by the name of Peter Segelko, who is a large collector of um, Oscar Petersons, and he sells them as well. But he had gotten an Oscar Peterson that looked very similar to this, that I actually was able um, to see, and I was able to show him actually at the show that I had done that I had actually made it so that they could see, um, or actually made it so that he was able to see that I had used his picture that he had taken as a reference for the color for the painting that was done. And in a lot of Oscar Peterson's fins, as he was doing his fish, they would have this blend of red to white or white to red. And he would actually do that. And on some of them you can see it, but he was using oil paints, and he was drawing with his fingers, drawing it out. So he would kind of like a dot of paint, and he'd pull with his thumb. So it was like he was painting with his fingers, doing finger paints on those. So it was kind of cool. But I thought I'd bring one to share this evening, just in case there's ever somebody that's on Zoom that did feel like sharing. They could do that. But I'm going to take this. These were 1/4 inch holes. This is a 1/4 inch chisel. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go between the cuts, and I'm going to start to make this be the outside edge of the chamber for my lead. And at some point, I'll have to take these out, and we'll take a peek at what it's like to pour lead in these things. So, starting at this side, and I just kind of rock it through to the next opening. So you can see I'm starting to line this up and get down in there just to get it started, so that I got a place to put the tip of my chisel into the wood. So I've got it now. So that's lined up. And I'm going to take this now and push it down in. And this really saves a ton of time, having to cut the edges with a utility blade, which is how I was initially doing it. You can do it. I'm not saying you can't. I know that I personally, I cannot afford to cut myself. Bleeding is not an option for me, unless I want it all gone. So I I'm able to take this. It was a 1/4 inch a bit that I was using, so this is actually a 1/4 inch down. So my 1/4 inch chisel is sliding right into the slot, and I can kind of dig that away, and I can pop those things out. And what I'm going to end up with is a really nice uh, pocket for the lead to go in. This is being a little bit ornery, I guess, here. I got to push down again into this. There's a little piece blocking, because I should be able to go down in and kind of tilt it back, and I'll pop those little pieces off, which is where I'm going now. Get that. There I go. Okay, so that little piece fell right off. So I got that little piece off. You can make out a little bit of the drill, the circular drill pattern on that chip that I just dragged out of there. But I had it set up in my drill press that all of the distances, going down the depth, was the same for this one, this chamber. And then I had redone the chamber depth for the front one, because the front one's a little bit deeper than the back one for the way that these work, these decoys. So I've got myself a pretty nice little chamber right there. You can see the brad tip drill bits that I was using. You can see the little kind of puncture marks down there at the bottom. This particular line, I did notice this after I'd done it, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to actually, you can see it's it's offset a little bit. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go out just a little bit farther for that mark. And that's going to equal up the distances between the sides. So now this is equal to that and this is equal to that. But I drilled off just a little bit. It doesn't take much to do that. Um, and now I'm just going to kind of resize that chamber just a little bit. It'll all fill in. It'll be right by the tail end of it. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. When I start doing the leading in these chambers, I actually have an aquarium next to my leading pot, and that's what I will use to kind of make sure that the thing will float uh, level, because that's the biggest thing that you want to make sure you get is these floating level. If they're kind of canted to one direction or the other, that can be problematic. So it's nice when you are doing your carvings and doing the letting of them to make sure that they are done in such a way that it's not, when it's in that aquarium, that it's not, tail heavy or maybe has a floaty tail. You want them to be floating just level, perfectly level. And then when you let it go, you want it to drop. You want that nose to drop just a little bit, and that way it'll start its movement around your hole as you're doing your. Whoop, that was a big chip. It won't get away from you when you're out spearing. Um, I do want to mention that if you're joining me on the channel, you can go see. I uploaded my second video of the series. I called out some different resources, gave some names of people that you can always, if you don't get in touch with them, at least search out their work. Just some of the people that we have in the community, the carving community, that are just, they're a wealth of knowledge. So to be able to have those people around and be able to access that information, real good resources. I also went over some different books that you could potentially uh, either find, or just, the kind of thing to keep your eye out for as you're starting in on this, to kind of help you along your way. Because anything anyone will tell you, if they've been doing it, it's good to have somebody else, if not critique your work, at least, give you suggestions or something, another way of doing something that'll make it so it might make your life a little bit easier as you're going along and you're carving your fish. Okay, I got a big chunk in there that's trying to come out. There it is. Oop. Got her. And I also had the opportunity, I went out spearing last week on Wednesday, and I had a wonderful time. There's a gentleman who is a teacher down at a school that I used to teach at, Pine River Area Schools, and his name is Eric Thompson. And I had a very nice, we had a good relationship. We were kind of room neighbors there for many, many years in the high school. And I don't know, I want to say it's like 7 or 8 times at least that he's had that class that I have gone out with his class fishing. I'll go out and help for the day. So it was nice to have the opportunity to run into them out on Rose Lake and help that day. And they were able to, I think from what he told me, everyone that was there caught a fish, so that's good. But I was able to record some more footage, so I do have another, reel of spearing activity underwater. And with that one, I actually had the opportunity to throw on a pretty nice sized pike, um, but I just missed it. Those buggers are they're wily. Um, he rolled on me right as the spear got there, and he took off. But it's kind of interesting to watch it all occur underwater. The water was so dark I was not able to see it. Uh, the fish just came in, and it kind of it was really neat how it just kind of appeared. You know, the dark silhouette of a pike rolling into a hole is it's pretty impressive. But I would not have known that it was even there if I didn't have that camera. Uh, that camera's been wonderful to have this year, and it just makes it a lot easier for me to see down that hole, see what's occurring around my baits. It also helps me to see what ones are working well, how they swim. So I'm able to do that. I'm able to take different ones out and just test them out and see what the fish are reacting to. So that's been a lot of fun too. So right now I got my two chambers done. Okay, and I have that V done in the back. I have that kind of spooned out tail that I was wanting to try. So I'm going to see how all that is going to be working. But I'm going to start, I think, I've got a couple things I want to just kind of carve up a little bit up around here in the head, a little bit around the mouth, and then I'm going to start just sanding. When it comes to sanding these, you want to make sure, a lot of this, I don't know if you can see it or how obvious it is, but you can kind of see the individual carving marks as I was carving. I'm going to get it to the point where those kind of disappear, where you're not going to be able to necessarily see those anymore. And what happens is you just get a real nice smooth presentation with this fish. I still have a rough outline of the line that runs right down the back of this. It's still there. I'm going to be kind of smoothing out to that line basically, because I'm going to have to put and I'll have this stuff for the next time as I go to cut the actual line ties. But there'll be a line tie, and I'll have two small fins that I'm going to be putting back here. I'll have the two fins on this side, two fins on that side, and then there'll be a line tie right here. So you'll see it'll be something very similar like this. You can see I've got these two fins. I got the two fins here on this side, two on the other, and then this is my line tie. And there's multiple holes to allow you to hook that up so that it swims the best. You have multiple opportunities to make the thing work real well. So I'm going to take at this point my knife, and I do have a little bit of kind of cleanup and things that I wanted to just remove a little bit more wood down through the gill area. So on this side, I was going to remove a little bit more down through here around this nose. Just kind of, right now, I'm just kind of going around and just making sure that things are pretty symmetrical from left to right, so that it balances well. These are my flex cuts. I'm going to want the one that's a little bit stumpier. I don't want the one that's quite so pointed. You can see that one's really pointed. That one's not quite. It's pointed, just the different tips. I'm just kind of just shaving off a little bit here, a little tiny bit. Probably gonna, I need to round off. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it on the screen. There's like a little, I left that line there because I was gonna come through here and remove that wood right through there. There it is. Okay. So again, real sharp blades. You want your utensils as sharp as you can make them. And again, I'll strop them. I won't take up time today to do that in front of you, but as I had mentioned before, when we're doing these carving videos, you want to take the opportunity to actually shave, or excuse me, to strop your blades as you're going. That right there, you can see it kind of softens that jaw line up on the fish a little bit. I'm going to flip it over so you can see, because I haven't done it to this side yet. You can see how that's kind of harsh. It comes right to that flat line, whereas this one's this is nice. It rounds right around there too. It kind of gives it the illusion of it being a flared gill. So I'm going to take and draw it down along this. That's the curve I'm going to be making. I'm going to take this blade, it's a little bit, again, it's not as pointed, it's a little bit stouter blade at the tip, and I'm basically going to push down through, which is as I just did, and you can see that chip's coming off. See that little chip's going to come off. And then I can come back and I can actually carve down through that, and I will round that off a little bit. So I got that nice kind of round curve there. I'm going to carve at an angle down into that, and I'm going to pop out a little piece that's going to actually cause that, because I put those grooves in the last time, but it's going to continue that groove up around into there. So I just removed the little piece that I was cutting, and now there's a groove that actually goes right through that entire place, and it gives just that illusion of that gill coming up just a little bit. Just kind of working that back just a little bit. As I go to stand, I can get rid of some of that stuff too. That helps. Those grooves that you put in here too, they don't need to be perfectly smooth in there. In fact, when they're a little bit choppy in there, what you're going to find is that helps the lead to kind of grab on in there. It's part of the reason, like when we put those fins in there, the fins will hold on to the lead. Everything kind of locks itself in together once you get that lead in there. Okay, pop that off again. One more. There we go. Okay. Looking good. Looking pretty good. Get a little bit right in here. Felt there was an odd little bump right there. I'd gone too deep with one cut, or one little chip I was popping out of there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I mean, again, this is it's a process. There's a lot that goes into making these. So I'm kind of, as far as a rough carving of this goes right now, pretty close to having this, roughed in as far as all the carving and kind of the woodworking that goes with it. I might have to take a little bit more off this back side, maybe a little bit more off this top here, but for the most part, it's doing okay. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to grab my my paper, my my sandpaper, and I'm going to start to smooth off those edges. I'm going to start with a fairly rough, like 60 or 80 grit. Um, and then I'll move up to like 100, 125, 225, something like that. So this first grit that I'm using, this looks like it's a 60, so it's a lot of grit. So what that'll do is it'll get rid of these things fairly quick. It's going to put pretty big marks on it, scratch marks on it. But those scratch marks are going to go away as I continue, increasing um, how fine the grit is. So right now, using a 60, I'm going to come in here. I've got it by hand and just shaping and manipulating the wood to get rid of some of the cut marks that I've made. On the tail area here, I'm actually getting rid of some of the sand marks that I made on my actual sanding belt, because I use the sanding belt on that tail to kind of get that scoop, get that little curve that you have, and you can see that curve that I've made. But that was done on the sanding belt. If I had tried to do that with my blade, um, the uh, the grain of this wood does not appreciate that little activity. So you'll find it'll chunk up, it'll chunk out, it won't work the way that you hope. And it's frustrating when you're working on something and uh, something like that happens. A lot of times you can fix it. Broken tails can be fixed. All this stuff can be fixed in the process when you're initially making it. You can see I'm taking off quite a bit of wood right now, but it is smoothing it out. Um, the grit you can actually see. I don't know. Let's see how close we can get. That'll probably work. You can actually see there's groove marks from how rough this is, but that's okay. Again, as I do this, I'm trying to get rid of those the cut marks that I have on there, and it's okay to have these rough scratch marks on it, because as I increase again the grit of the paper, you're going to find that it actually will disappear, all that stuff. So I'm just going one side here, kind of doing the body because I'm holding on to the head. I'm going to flip this over in just a moment, and I'll get that other side going. I'm sanding up to that spine with this. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to start on this. This mark and this mark, they don't matter. Those marks, those are for the where the fins are going to go. I know where they're going to go. I can put those back on there easy enough. So any of the line work that's on this right now, its usefulness is pretty much it's not needed at this point. Everything is known that I needed to with those pencil marks. So as I go, I don't need to necessarily worry about them being brushed away by the sandpaper. So how has New Jersey been? You still there, Brandon? Been able to work? I'm not sure if he's still there. As I go up into these, the lip area, the face here, and these cheeks, um, you do want to kind of be careful. It's a little bit fragile right through here. Um, so you kind of want to be careful as you're rounding that off and smoothing that so that it's not quite so much of a sharp change in direction. So I'm taking this, and what I'm going to do, I'll take this, I'm going to fold it once more, and that'll give me kind of a rounded edge. You can see, you know, this is broken in, obviously, a little bit of a rounded edge, and I'm just going to very carefully come in here, rounded, and just kind of follow that, and that'll round off that lip, so it's not quite as a sudden change. There we go. I'll do that same thing over here around that tip lip area. Okay. And at the top of that head here too. I've got it kind of like in a U shape, and it's wrapping over top of that head. I noticed today, I don't know if other communities do this, or I believe it's the Lions Club of Cadillac, puts a shanty on the ice here to raise money, and they get like a bidding war thing where they figure out what day it's going to go through. And I noticed that there were people posting online that the shanty had gone through the ice on Lake Cadillac, so that was a big happening here today, I guess. Soon enough, I'll be back up on a lawnmower at the city, mowing the Cadillac Maple Hill Cemetery, which if anyone ever...
I don't see a Cadillac Maple Hill Cemetery.
Oh, sorry about that. Siri was trying to be helpful. I'll be back up to Cadillac Maple Hill, carving, or excuse me, working on the stones, walking the rows. As I go through here too, where those gill marks are on the underside of the fish, I'm going to actually, I've got it kind of still rolled over. You can see I still got a good area on where it's not white here. This area right here, I'm going to just kind of curve it, and I'm gonna ride it up and down that area, and it's gonna help to just smooth that out and make it look more like those gill marks that you get on the side. And if I ride it right here, I can actually make it look like it's got that flared gill look, which is one of the things that I know. I know that Mr. Al Nelson, living legend, that he enjoys doing. And I know there's a lot of people that kind of know that that's one of the things that kind of with the Cadillac style, you kind of get some of that flare where it looks like looks like those gills are raised up off of the skin. I'm rounding off that jaw again. All the cut marks that were down that side, I'm getting rid of. Flaring that. I got to get this side. There we go. Just kind of as a reminder too, I do have a Zoom meeting that goes on as well during these times. And when that Zoom meeting is going on, uh, if there's ever an opportunity that somebody has something that they want to share, or they have a question, and they want to have kind of the opportunity to ask the question, not just type it, more than welcome to join uh, that and share. I'd love to see work that people might be doing. Uh, any suggestions that they might have or little hints that they're able to show on that, I would appreciate that as well. Uh, just kind of a nice opportunity for people to come together and share what they're doing and how they're doing it. Okay, I gotta get this side starting to smooth up. So I'm trying to get rid of, there's quite a bit, I don't know if you're gonna make it out. There's a kind of a lot of these vertical lines on the jaw. That's from the sanding belt that I run these things up and around. So I'm kind of trying to get rid of those as I go around. And then once I get rid of those, when I come back around, um, I'll be smoothing it out. Like all this will just be, it'll just be real nice, smooth wood. I'm going to take my paper now. I'm going to bend it again in a different place. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and I'm going to get it in the mouth. And I'm going to be kind of dragging that along the edges and the side. I don't want to necessarily drag it this direction into this so that that little corner of the mouth. What'll sometimes happen is the sandpaper, if you're running that, you'll sometimes get that down in here where it'll create like a line for you that you don't necessarily want there. It's something that you can, when you're like using body filler, you can actually get rid of it that way. But it's easier just to not do it, just to make sure that it's not something that's going to be there. So right now I'm just kind of going in that corner of the mouth down here, um, coming around that front side, rounding that off a little bit. And then I'm going to roll this over, and now I'm doing that other side. Go down along this edge, get that flat bottom. This is kind of a part of that style, that Cadillac style, is you have that flat bottom here, and then that angle that comes up from the bottom of the jaw. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Rounding off some of these sharper corners on the bottom of the jaw. Get these edges down on the actual bottom of the fish. Let's see this here. Kind of round that off there. It's the bottom portion of the tail. Let's see if I can't get move some of that, round off this edge. And I'm going to do the same over on this side. Round it off so they don't take off the tip. This is one of those things where as you're going, you'll like accidentally remove the tip of one of these tails, and then you got to glue it together. And there's ways of fixing it. If you really do a number on a tail, you can always glue it together and then pin it with like toothpicks. You can drill back into it and replace them that way. I've actually, on a couple of my bigger fish, I didn't even have a break. I just knew that it was something that could happen, because personally I use mine that I make. I know that I have collectors out there that collect my work that those fish are probably never going to see water, which is fine, to each their own. But the fish that I make, I want them fishable. So if I know that a pike's going to hit that thing, I want to try to make it as strong as possible. I've also started doing the I'll be bathing this in CA glue, super glue, and that will help as well to just kind of strengthen everything, fill in the pores. It'll keep water out. Um, so when I'm building my fish, I guess I like to know that they are usable. People don't have to not use them. They're going to function for what they're actually doing. Now this looks kind of fuzzy right now, and that's just because of the how rough my this was right here. So what's going to happen now? I'm going to find another level of grit to sand this with, and it's going to just become increasingly smooth. But right now, let's see. I think you can probably see it's kind of fuzzy. It looks kind of fuzzy at the moment. So I need to get rid of that fuzz. So let's see what I got. Looks like we're going to be about 100. Let's see. It's 150. Oh, this looks good. What's this? Yeah, that one will go. So it's another step. I'm guessing this is probably 100 right here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start sanding with that. And it's going to smooth out the marks that I made from the last. It's going to smooth out the marks that I made with that last grip. I do enjoy doing this outside, or during my breaks up at the cemetery when I'm working up there. Just because I don't have to worry about the sawdust. The sawdust right now, I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about it, but I'm going to be vacuuming when I get done today. I just got to be careful. I don't want to get it, I guess, on my computer. But I am removing those bigger gouges that were put on here. So I'll get that smooth, and I'll probably get it to about 125, 200, something like that, for my final grit that I'm going to be using. And I believe that my Zoom meeting, I think that might be done. Let me look here. Is it done? My Zoom meetings are only you're only allowed 40 minutes is my belief. So I'm guessing shortly mine's going to be done if it's not done already. Looks like there might still be somebody on there though. So I did notice today in our community there was a gentleman that was coming to the library to talk about the old Indian Trail, which is the trail that I had the honor of working on this summer. I was able to go and repair stones that had been damaged either through nature or neglect or just damaged, like it could have been car damage. So I had that going on. But I saw there was a guy that had been, I was going to do a presentation on those, which I'll have to reach out and see if there was a video on it or something so I can kind of pay attention to what was happening there. Okay, so that's so it's getting nice and smooth. Everything's getting rounded off. I'm not having the square edges on things now. Things are becoming fluid. You want things to look fluid because you're dealing with a creature that goes through the water. Nice. I'll be interested to see what that does. Kind of scooping that tail like that. Hopefully it'll make it swim either differently or better. I kind of like the look of it. I'm a fan of Hans Janner's work. He did some beautiful stuff. I really like his use of copper fins and the way his fins were stylized. I enjoyed that. So I have what's called a myco. It's basically a force aged decoy, kind of a false decoy, I guess. But I've got one that's very much like his. Maybe I'll show that next week when I go. This is probably going to turn out. This is kind of looking a little troutish to me, so I'm probably going to end up making this into a trout for paint and such. See what I can do. This is going to be just a typical smoothie, so I'm not going to have any details as far as the actual wood burning, any scales or things in that. So I'll be putting eyes in it. I'll have to find some eyes to put in it. I have a huge collection. I'll just figure out which ones I want. Put them in. Yeah. Starting to feel very soft. It's always like when the wood is getting smooth, it starts to feel soft. Kind of talks to you that way, I guess. Go around that gill again. And that gill. Just keep increasing that grit. The thing is, the better job you do in sanding and finishing it right now, the easier it's going to be for you when you actually get primer on it. You're not going to have as much stuff to have to put filler in or Bondo or any of the other little kind of tricks and things that you've got to do to smooth things out and make them look right. Any dents or damage that might have been done to the actual wood, it helps it to not have that stuff. So, the better you do, the better job you do sanding, the better this is going to look in the long run for you. So I've got that subtle lip is coming along pretty nicely. You can just barely see that lip. You get that nice little break right there. That lip is. I'll end up putting my Oscar mustache on it. Yeah, hopefully we got some good weather on the way. One of these nights I may just set up out in my garage. It may not be a full hour, but I'll go out there and actually have have my lead pot going, and I'll do some pouring of lead. Like once I get the fins and everything in, it'll just give you the opportunity to see that occur. Maybe I'll make a couple of mistakes so you can figure out how to solve them too. Things I know I did as I went. I was fortunate. Al Nelson, uh, he sold me an actual lead pot to use, and it's been invaluable being able to have that and work on these. I've had to take it apart twice, I think, just fully melt all the lead out of it to clean the opening, the hole, because they at times they tend to not want to work. But this one's been it's been working really well for me for, I don't know, after that second time I cleaned it out, which was at this point a couple years ago. So it's been doing a real nice job for me. Uh, can't say enough nice things about him, sharing some of his knowledge and the tools that he didn't need with me. So just kind of carrying on this tradition. Uh, and enjoying it. Okay. Looking good. Nice. Okay. Here's another step up in the sanding. Actually, what do we got here? There. That was probably 100. This is up in the 200s. So this is really going to smooth it out when I start using this. A lot of that fuzziness, excuse me, a lot of that fuzziness, and you can probably see it. I'm kind of pushing it away right now. This is becoming really super smooth right now, and this is the kind of the fuzziness of some of the wood that's been lifted by that harsher grit. So I'm breaking that little light bond that they had still between the wood and that harsher grit. And what I got now is I'm just getting this really nice smooth. Oh, it feels so soft. Just a real nice smooth surface. So then that's what I'm kind of looking for. I want that smooth surface. It'll hold that primer well when I get to that point. It will it'll hold the paints well. It'll just be uh, a more finished presentation for your decoy. I know some people, they don't, and I know Al Nelson was always very, he was very set in his ways. He knew what he was doing, but he was always very much about the finish, the fit and finish of the end piece. Some people just pour in the lead and paint right over everything, and it looks really rough down here. His stuff was always it was finished and it looked finished. Um, and I really appreciate that with him and his work. Just how he was very keen on not just making a decoy, but making a decoy that was beautiful and that worked. So in that tradition, that's what I guess trying to do. And I know that by sanding it, I'm going to get that smooth surface. I'm going to be able to get that paint on there. I'm going to have a smooth bottom, a bottom that doesn't look like it was just haphazardly done. Get that mouth and the cheeks. Yeah, this is really nice and smooth. Yeah, working it through those different layers is important. Those different grits. Get underneath those gill plates. Get in the actual mouth. Get that. Like I've said before, I do have a series that I'm kind of doing, and that series is about making the decoys. It's more of a kind of a serialized context. It's not just this going live and just carving for an hour. Um, it's more about kind of the steps, the processes, the things you need. The next one I was hoping to do here shortly is going to be on just other tools that you might need. I have done one on the resources. That was the second one. I've done one on the actual cutting utensils and how to kind of care for them, at least, in just a basic level. And again, if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to reach out and contact me. You can join my Facebook. My Facebook has all the information about these little meet and greets here that I'm doing, as well as opportunities, to ask questions, reach out. Um, if there's people you need to find or questions you have about decoys, if I don't know, I've got people that do know. So I'll try to help you the best I can. So it's just kind of one of those things. We only have about a minute left, a little less than a minute left for tonight. So next time we meet, I will probably be, I'll be putting in, uh, some, whoop, pencil. I'll probably be putting in the fins, which the fins for me are going to be going down along this line. I talked about this at the beginning. I'm using my finger as a measuring tool to ride that smooth surface. I can flip this over and I can do the same thing on the other side, so I know they're equal. Just riding that. So I know that's where those are going to do. I've got my line on the back. And that's going to be where my line tie will run up that line there. I'll have another one that will be down here in the back. I'll probably have another little one that will be coming out here. And next time we meet, I'll talk about the making the line ties, the fins, and also the smaller fins here in the back. So we'll talk about all that the next time. Thanks again for joining me this evening. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedules and coming here to watch what I'm trying to share. So everyone will have a safe week. I'll see you next week.